headed in a new direction, how a new route could pose some problems for the city of Crystal. Then an added police presence to build community relations.
I want them to know that I am there to actually help them out.
But first, tragedy on the ice. A Crystal man and loving father and husband dies unexpectedly after a game of hockey. 12 News starts right now.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Johnson.
And I'm Alexandra Renslow. Family and friends are grieving today after 46-year-old Greg Reby died unexpectedly doing what he loved.
The Crystal father of two was playing in a pond hockey tournament on Lake Minnetonka Friday when he suddenly collapsed. Reporter Cassie Bonstrom spoke with those who knew him today, and they are understandably shaken. Cassie?
Well, Mike, everyone who knew him is in shock that something like this could happen to someone so young and in seemingly good health. From all accounts, Greg seemed just fine during his team's first games on Friday. A Sun Sailor photographer captured Greg during the tournament, playing hard, even wearing his gold helmet from his Wayzata high school hockey days. Friends say he went unconscious once, but then recovered. And then it happened a second time, and paramedics were unable to revive him. His longtime friend, Eric Vogel, remembers Greg's selflessness and loyalty.
I know if there was anything I needed, he would drop everything at a moment's notice to help me out any way I could, and he would do that for anyone.
Greg leaves behind a wife and two young children. A fund has been set up to help with expenses, and more than $16,000 has been raised in just 4 hours.
Everybody's coming together and everybody's supporting, and the family is devastated, and I'm sure they don't know where they're going to go next, but I think they do know that they've got supports.
A funeral for Greg will be held this coming Saturday at St. Philip the Deacon Lutheran Church in Plymouth. Meanwhile, family is still waiting for answers from the medical examiner as to why his heart gave out in the first place. Mike.
All right, thank you, Cassie. As we went to air, we were awaiting word on the sentence for a Brooklyn Park father who ran from the scene of a crash, leaving behind his two seriously injured children. Authorities say Earl Ward had been drinking before he crashed his van into a construction hole last July in St. Paul. Ward's son suffered a broken leg. His daughter fractured her spine. Ward faces up to 40 years in prison.
Golden Valley police are investigating an armed robbery of a Chipotle restaurant. It occurred just before closing Sunday night at the Chipotle on Winnetka Avenue. Two men entered the business. One of them displayed a weapon. As we went to air, police were following up on leads. And New Hope police say no arrests yet in a liquor store robbery and shooting. Last Thursday night, an employee at Viking Liquor was shot in the leg. That employee is recovering from his injuries.
Governor Dayton today unveiled his plan to fix what he calls a $6 billion transportation problem over the next decade. Dayton's plan includes a half-cent Metro sales tax hike for transit projects such as the Bottineau Light Rail Line. It also adds a new 6.5% tax on gas and increases license tab fees. That money would be used to repair or replace roads and bridges. And the plan likely faces an uphill battle in the Republican-controlled House, where there is little interest in raising taxes. Crystal City officials say a new rail project would snarl traffic, impact emergency response times, and affect several businesses.
Canadian Pacific and Burlington Northern Santa Fe are proposing to link their tracks near West Broadway and County Road 81. As Delane Cleveland reports, there's not much the city can do about it.
Travel often enough down West Broadway or Douglas Drive in Crystal, and it's likely that at some point you'll encounter a train. As it stands, those are the only two roads in the city where that's a concern for drivers, but that could soon be changing.
So we're in the parking lot of Thomas Auto Body right now, and you can see these pink markers in the parking lot are showing where the new rail line is going to connect.
Crystal Council member Jeff Kolb says nearby property owners notified the city that Canadian Pacific, with a line going east and west, wanted to connect with the BNSF line, which goes north and south.
The railroad has eminent domain authority, meaning that they can condemn and purchase this property on their own without any involvement whatsoever from the city.
Crystal City officials say this BNSF line only gets about one train per day, but if this project goes through, that number would increase. That would cause significant problems for both traffic and emergency vehicles.
It sounds as though this is something they would like to do in 2015.
Crystal Community Development Director Patrick Peters says a typical freight train is about 4,000 feet long or 100 cars, which means that Douglas Drive, West Broadway, Corvallis Avenue, and another chunk of West Broadway could all be blocked at the same time.
So what that means is that police responding to an emergency or a call would not be able to access the northern or eastern parts of our city during the time that those at-grade crossings are blocked.
I think that it would be a complete loss for Thomas Auto Body and North Suburban Towing.
Ultimately, there's not much the city can do, but they're trying to keep people informed.
Although there are a lot of things that we don't know now, we do anticipate there will be a period for public comment, and we wanted to make sure we got the information out as soon as possible.
In Crystal, Delane Cleveland, 12 News.
If the project does go through, Crystal officials say something would have to get done so emergency services aren't affected. The city has been in talk with local lawmakers about possibly elevating those train tracks.
Bus riders who use Plymouth Metrolink have a new tool to help them stay on time. It's a new mobile app that allows riders to track exactly where their bus is in real time. It also has a built-in route planner, and if the schedule changes because of something like a big snowfall, it can notify you so you don't have to wait outside in the cold.
One of the things with our system is we're a system of choice, meaning that most of our riders have other transportation alternatives. So convenience is something that's really important to us, and we think that this app will help make the system more usable for our riders.
You can get the app at Google Play, iTunes, and Windows Marketplace. The Hennepin County Sheriff's Office is beefing up its community relations efforts.
Reporter Sonia Goins shows us what they're doing to better connect with communities of color.
Sergeant Kel McDaniel has been with the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office for almost 6 years.
Great responsibility. It's a great job. I love what I'm doing.
He used to be part of the Emergency Services Unit, dealing with armed and dangerous suspects.
We're actually help everywhere and anywhere you can think of. How you doing, my man?
But now his focus has changed to preventing crimes before they happen.
I want them to know that I am there to actually help them out.
Sergeant McDaniel is in charge of the Hennepin County Sheriff's Community Engagement Unit.
Our mission is basically is to build strong, trusting relationships in the community, and that's what we do. How you doing?
Today he talked with people at the Brooklyn Center Metro Transit Station.
It's a different era, and we all know that.
The topic of mistrust of police officers was a hot topic.
We're scared of them, like, they're scared of us. You don't see many of them patrolling the hoods, though.
And that's a great question.
People like Moses Jackson say he's glad to see Sergeant McDaniel out in the streets getting to know the community.
We don't have enough people that look like us in our community, who understands us and, who knows how to approach us.
Gotta do something. That's why we're out here. We gotta do something. We can't sit in the office and not do something.
Besides talking to everyday folks on the street, Sergeant McDaniel also reaches out to families coping with tragedy.
I was at this vigil in Brooklyn Center with one of the local pastors actually that was heading it to show support and appreciation for the family. You should be able to park right there.
He says by building bridges in the community, we can possibly avoid situations like the unrest that happened in Ferguson, Missouri.
I think the only way that we can actually break the barrier between the community and the police is for people to ask questions. Because we all know the minute that you just sit there, it creates another issue and another problem.
In Brooklyn Center, Sonia Goins, 12 News.
There are 4 members on the community engagement team. In a few weeks, a Latino liaison will also join the group. Coming up, a Brooklyn Park barber who's been razor sharp for 50 years.
Then later in sports, a local prep gymnastics team clinches a conference title.
But first, mild weather continues. Temperatures in the 40s are expected Tuesday and Wednesday.
In an era of upscale salons, the traditional barbershop sometimes gets overlooked.
In Minnesota, there are 2,000 licensed barbers. In this week's Business Matters, we introduce you to a Brooklyn Park barber who is getting ready to put down his clippers after 50 years on the job.
Good afternoon, Denny's Barbers.
At Denny Brummer's Brooklyn Park Barbershop.
I've always ran my barbershop a lot like Cheers on TV.
The man with the fine-tooth comb and shears is bound to know your name and a bit more.
You can talk to him about anything, and what gets said in the barbershop stays in the barbershop.
For 50 years, Denny Brummer has cut and styled men's hair.
He's a lucky guy, got a lot of hair, hasn't he?
Priding himself on giving customers a good, even cut every time they take a seat.
I only got one rule, and that is that there are no rules. Common sense runs the shop. If we're busy, you cut hair.
He's run his own shop for 35 years, drawing repeat customers who wouldn't dream of going anyplace else.
His haircuts have always been good. He's a good guy.
He does a darn good job on my hair.
He does a great job, and you always want to come back to the people that treat you right and cut your hair right.
But after 50 years on his feet, this 68-year-old is ready to put down his tools.
I'm old, yeah, and 50 years is a good time to do it, and my wife and I, we want to maybe do a little traveling.
His retirement on April 1st, however, won't mark the end of Denny's barber shop.
I've been cutting hair for 43 years. Yes, and I plan to do it for a while yet.
The shop will be in good hands with Edna Karanin, who has worked by Denny's side the past 2 decades.
I really enjoy my customers. They are good to me, and yeah, what more can I ask for?
It's the same question Denny Brummer is asking.
GQ.
After a 50-year career of cutting, clipping, and making customers look good.
I'm a lucky man. That's what I am.
One of Denny's last haircuts will be a man that's flying in from Tennessee for a final haircut with the barber he started going to as a kid. So a lot of longtime customers, we're talking decades.
And after that, it's hard to change barbers.
That's right. Coming up, an extra reason to cheer in Maple Grove.
But first in sports, #1 Hopkins tips off against another top 5 girls basketball team. John Jacobson with the highlights when we come back.
The Lake Conference features some great matchups in girls basketball this winter. Top-ranked Hopkins met up with number 3 Minnetonka Friday night at the Lindbergh Center. Minnetonka goes on an early run in this game. Kayla Mershon getting the rebound and put back for a 20-11 Skippers lead. Ashley Bates drives and scores for Hopkins. That starts a big night for the junior. Courtney Fredrickson gets a rebound and basket for the Skippers, and they maintain their lead. But Hopkins chips away at that lead, and Evelyn Knox's three-pointer gives the Royals a 33-31 halftime lead. Hopkins will swing it around to Nia Holly for a three-pointer early in the second half as the Royals maintain their lead, and then they turn up their pressure on defense. Holly gets the steal, dishes to Bates on the break for 2 more. Hopkins is on their way. They are fast in transition. They'll score again here. Bates to T.T. Starks for the hoop and foul. Hopkins leads at 53-40. They go on to win it 70-55. In the boys' game between those schools, Hopkins beat Minnetonka 97-79. Xavier Johnston and John Warren combined for 49 points for the 6th-ranked Royals, who have now won 9 straight games. Wayzata's girls may not match up well with the top Lake Conference teams, but they are much improved from a year ago. Trojans hosted a strong Rogers club Friday. Rogers comes out strong in this game. They beat the press. Marina Nowak scores 2 inside for a 9-0 lead. Nowak scores 17 points to lead the Royals. Off the inbounds play, Mimi Schrader, quick baseline move and scores for the Trojans. They pull back to within 11-7. Hannah Hiring misses on the short shot, but Annie Robertson steals the outlet pass, gets an easy 2 here, and she scores 9 points in the game. The Royals lead throughout the first half. Taylor Anderson hits the baseline pull-up here for a 24-14 lead. It's 29-21 Rogers at halftime. Second half, Anderson finds Haley Thingleson for the corner 3, and the Rogers lead grows to 13 points. Wayzata tries to stay in it here. Robertson with a steal and gets in for the layup. And Rogers dominates the second half. Taylor Paulsrud knocks down the jumper, and the Royals hold 11. Wayzata to 11 points in the second half, and they win it 59-32. In gymnastics, defending Lake Conference champion Wayzata finished the dual meet part of their schedule Friday night, trying to clinch another Lake Conference title as they hosted Minnetonka on the vault. It's Andy Poles for Wayzata, scoring an 8.8, second highest in that event for the Trojans. She was second in the vault to Claire Lorbecki. Becky also won the uneven bars with a score of 9.3. To the balance beam, and Andy Poles scores a season high 9.20, and that's the top score for either team in this event. The skippers kept the meet close throughout the beam. Gabby Evans scoring 9.0 to top Minnetonka. Wayzata is very good in the floor exercise in this night, and that helps them pull away to win. Addie Aaron with a score of 9.25, one of 3 Trojans to top 9.2. Becky won the event, scoring a 9.425, and Wayzata wins the conference title, scoring 138.65 on the night to beat Minnetonka. In prep wrestling, Plymouth neighbors Wayzata and Armstrong aren't in the same conference anymore, but they are in Section 6-3A together. They met up as part of a quad meet with Rocori in Minneapolis South. It's all Wayzata in the early going. Mark Walerius will slap a cradle on Junner Gohansen in the 113-pound match. He gets the pin for a 9-0 Trojans lead, part of a trend on this night for Wayzata. Next match at 120. Aj Davis sees a chance for the cradle. Doesn't take him long from there, and he'll pin Damon Barley of Armstrong. More of the same at 126. Cradle is the pinning hold of choice again. David Corey sticking James Young. It's 21-0 Wayzata, and they're well on their way to a win. Up to 145, Sam Gilseth keeps it rolling for the Trojans. He'll get the pin with another cradle, and that one makes it 37-0 Wayzata. Armstrong does win 3 straight matches at 170, 182, and 195. Here it's Ben Unger keeping working until he gets the fall to beat Giovanni Buckner at 195. But Wayzata wins the last 2 matches, and they win it over Armstrong 55-16. And that's a look at sports for today.
All right, thanks a lot, John. We'll be right back.
Well, all eyes of the local cheerleading world were focused on Maple Grove this past weekend.
Cheer teams from more than 60 of the top high school, junior high, elementary, and all-star squads made their way to Maple Grove on Sunday for the annual Crimson Cheer Challenge. Teams are judged on execution and difficulty of cheer, tumbling, and stunting. Up next for some of these lucky teams is a trip to Florida for a national competition.
So any opportunity that they can get scored by some judges before they head down to Florida is really important. And then also to compete against some of the best teams in Minnesota.
The top overall prize went to the cheer team from Bloomington Jefferson High School. I'm going to take a wild guess that there was a lot of energy there,
Yeah,
right?
Sounds like it. That's a lot of work, too.
That does it for us. Thanks so much for joining us.
Stay with us. Community Corner is coming up next, and we'll see you back here tomorrow beginning at 4.